Sometimes I run into atheists who have a hard time understanding more moderate Christians. At least part of the problem is a misunderstanding of how Christianity is structured. I'd like to draw a parallel from biology. Years ago, there was this misunderstanding in evolutionary biology that life evolved along a ladder of progression from more primitive types to more modern types. Now we understand that evolution is much more like a bush, with branches reaching in many different directions, most of which have become extinct since then. So, ladder no, bush yes. In the same way, some people get the impression of Christianity as some sort of a ladder or a continuum of belief. This model is perpetuated by US-based evangelicals and fundamentalists who hold themselves to be true believers because of their 100% literal interpretation. Even they make exceptions to it themselves, like fabrics and shellfish and stuff like that. People adhering to this 100% literal interpretation will eventually enjoy spending their time with this guy, while everybody else will eventually be spending their vacation time with this guy. Problem is, this latter-like model of Christianity is totally wrong. Most Christians look at this as some sort of a kindergarten-level interpretation of the Bible suitable only for preschoolers. The fact is, even from its earliest days, Christianity branched in many different directions. After the Protestant Reformation, it branched out even more. So today, Christianity is more like a bush, with tens of thousands of different individual branches with varying interpretations of the Bible. This U.S. brand of biblical literalism is just a modern offshoot of one of those branches. Even within one denomination, there can be different conclusions on some very basic ideas, like disagreements in the Episcopal Church over women, clergy, and gays. Even within U.S.-based evangelicals, some of their theologians are now accepting evolution as a fact. So some people look at this and ask, why do people interpret a single book in so many different ways? To me, the real question is, why would that surprise anybody? For another example, let's take a look at just a single sentence from the U.S. Constitution and how that causes such controversy and difference of opinion. Different people read exactly the same sentence and come up with vastly different interpretations of what it's supposed to mean. Compared to that, a single copy of the Gutenberg Bible has over 1,200 pages. And that's just one of many different translations of the Bible out there. Why would anybody think that everybody's going to interpret it the same way? Now, it's true you don't hear too much from moderate Christians on YouTube. There aren't very many videos done by theists who say that they believe in science, the age of the earth, the grass is green, the sky is blue, flowers are pretty, puppies are cute. Yeah, declaring yourself to be militantly average really doesn't get many people's attention. Also, to a lot of religious people, religion is a very private matter, and to crow about it publicly is kind of inappropriate. Many of them see people who do things like that as either annoying or just plain hypocritical. Of course, if you do choose to be an outspoken moderate Christian on YouTube, you can expect to be caught in a crossfire from both directions. Not that that applies to anybody we know. It's really an amusing experience to be shouted at and railed at by some radical atheist on the one hand, while simultaneously getting vote-botted by some religious right-winger who doesn't like the idea of the separation of church and state. For some strange reason, most Christians tend not to want to stick their head into a hornet's nest when they have nothing to gain from it. Most have more sense than that. Anyway. When you don't hear much from moderates on other parts of the bush, this gives you the impression that most Christians believe in this nonsense, or just as bad that they're supposed to believe in this. I've had some really weird discussions with a couple of atheists when I told them that most Christians accept the fact of evolution, the age of the earth, stuff like that. A few times I've had this thing thrown at me. The implication is that any Christian who accepts the facts of science is believing in two contradictory ideas. And for the most part, that's totally wrong. Again, this is a misunderstanding caused by believing in that latter model. The US-based crowd of biblical literalists typically reject anything that conflicts with their religious views. For any of these people to accept something like evolution, that would cause a case of cognitive dissonance. But for these people, it's not a problem. Most of these branches made their peace with science a long time ago. And it's not like this is some sort of new age, feel-good liberal idea. At least as far back as Thomas Aquinas back in the 13th century, theologians have been pondering over the idea that some things may be known from faith, but other things can only be known through reason. This misunderstanding has led to some pretty bizarre discussions with folks pointing at this group as if they represented the whole. Sorry guys, that's a straw man. I've actually had people get mad at me for not fitting into the box they're trying to put me into. Sorry, but your stereotype is your problem, Sparky. You want to find a solution to that problem, go look in a friggin' mirror. Even when we do talk calmly to each other, it's obvious we're going to have differences over some very basic ideas. And sure, I've seen things from moderate atheists that maybe wince a little bit, and there's no way to avoid that. There's no way to discuss some of the offensive actions of some religious groups without ruffling a couple of feathers. But one thing that surprised me on YouTube is compared to other places on the net is that most of the atheists I've met here are pretty reasonable people. They'll meet you halfway as long as you're not a jackass yourself. On the other hand, there are statements that we hear from both sides that are just plain counterproductive to any kind of understanding between. Yeah, this kind of crap. At this point, all rational discussion just flies out the window. Stuff like this might be good for displaying your own ideological purity to the fanboys. But serious, I have enough narrow-minded shitbirds out there to choose from already. The only thing that this kind of crap deserves is one of these. If I could conglomerate all the people I know on YouTube that I really give a rip about, I could put them on a line something like this. Not surprisingly, there are some flaming assholes at both ends of the spectrum. I don't give a shit about them. The ones I care about are these people. These are the ones I listen to and learn from and respect, even when we disagree with each other. So, to summarize that whole ramble, ladders, no. Bushes, yes. Boxes, no. Acceptance, yes. Let me know if that made any sense whatsoever.